In this tutorial, we are going to paint a dreamy seascape with watercolor. Before we get started, I'm going to quickly go over my supplies. So here I have a watercolor block from Arches. It's cold press. The size of my painting is 8 by 10 inches. The brushes that I used are from Zen Art. It's the Black Tulip brush set. I used 2 rounds, a rigger brush, and a large flat brush. The paints I used are from various brands, but basically you need some kind of pink, blue, yellow, and some kind of like tan color. For the yellow, I used Hansa Yellow Medium from Daniel Smith and Chinese White from Winsor & Newton to make a pastel version. For my blues, I used Sleeping Beauty Turquoise from Daniel Smith and Cobalt Turquoise from Schmincke. For my pinks, I used Shell Pink from Holbein, and I also used this Naples Yellow Reddish, mainly for the sand. And then for some shadows in the clouds, I used Moon Glow from Daniel Smith. For the sea foam and highlights, I used white gouache. If you don't have white gouache, you can use a white gel pen, white watercolor paint, or you can use masking fluid to mask off some areas of your painting. With this tutorial, we use the wet and wet method a lot, so you'll want to be sure to tape your watercolor paper onto your desk. But I didn't do that because I'm using a block. It's also a good idea to use paper that's 100% cotton and at least 140 pounds because we will be adding a lot of water to our paper. And if you have a watercolor paper that's not 100% cotton or less than 140 pounds, your paper might warp a lot. But if you don't have that quality of paper, that's okay. You can still try out this tutorial. I just wanted to let you know that it might not turn out exactly like mine. You can find the reference photo of the seascape in the description of this video, along with a whole list of supplies that I used for this tutorial. The very first step for this seascape painting is to draw your horizontal line here for the horizon. I use this watercolor pencil, Cobalt Turquoise from Faber-Castell, and then you want to draw your sun, which I drew mine right here with this cream watercolor pencil, also from Faber-Castell. And I am going off of the reference photo, which is linked below. But of course, you can really put your sun anywhere you would like in your horizon line. And then I use this other watercolor pencil called Burnt Ochre from Faber-Castell to kind of draw in the water on the sand here. And this is the only time I'm using watercolor pencils. If you don't have them, you can of course just use a regular pencil. And then once you have drawn these onto your watercolor paper, we are then going to mix some colors. So we'll paint in the sky first, and then we will paint in the water and the sand. So let's just worry about the colors that we see in the sky, which are blues and pinks and yellows, and maybe even a little bit of purples. The first color I'm going to mix is my yellow. So here I have my Hansa Yellow Medium from Daniel Smith, and I have Chinese White from Winsor & Newton. You can use regular yellow without the white, but I like to mix white into my colors that I want to make more of like a pastel version. So I am going to take my size 8 round brush from Zen Art, and I'm going to take some of my yellow here, add it to my palette. Then I'm cleaning my brush. And then now I am going to take some of this Chinese White and mixing that in. If you don't have white watercolor paint, but you have white gouache, that is also a white that you can mix into your yellow. I'm adding white until I like the color that I have. Then I'm also adding a lot of water to this because if you look at the reference photo, the yellow is very light. Like, it basically looks like white. So here is my yellow. This is kind of the shade that I'm going for. And then now I'm going to mix kind of like an orangish peachy color. So I'm going to take the yellow that's in my brush here. I'm not going to clean it. And I'm just going to add some to this area. And then mix some of this Shell Pink from Holbein. And I'm adding some water. Then I'm going to add a little bit more of this pink. Okay, so this is the color that I'm going for. And then I'm going to mix a purpley shade, just like a light pastel purple. So I'm going to take the peachy color that's in my brush and I'm just going to place it here now on my palette. And then this here is called Moon Glow. It's from Daniel Smith. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that to this. It looks more of like a grayish purple, which is kind of what I'm going for. I might also mix some of this Sleeping Beauty turquoise into this. So this will kind of be like the shadows that we see in the clouds. Then I'm cleaning my brush. And then now I'm going to mix a blue for the sky. So I'm taking this cobalt turquoise from Schmincke. And I'm adding a lot of water to it to make it very light. Now these paint brands that I'm using, you can use whatever brand you have. You don't have to buy the exact paints that I'm using. You basically just need a blue, a yellow, pinkish color, and a purple or like a grayish color. Okay, so our colors are mixed. Now it's time to actually get to painting. The first step for this guy is to take a large brush. Here I am using my size 3/4 flat brush from Zen Art, and I'm loading it with water, and then we are going to wet the entire sky here. And I'm trying to be careful to stay in the lines of my painting, but if I go out of my line, that's okay because I will be trimming around my painting when I'm done. And then it's also important to not put water where your sun is. We want to add water around our sun. And then it's also important to stop at the horizon line. Once your sky is wet, then it is time to drop in some color. So I'm going to take my size 10 round brush from Zen Art, load it with a little bit of water, and I'm going to start with this blue here that we mixed. So I'm taking this blue, and I'm going to start at this upper right corner here and add this in. I should have mixed more. That's like that's one of the struggles that I have with watercolor painting, is that I never mix enough of my colors. I'm going to grab some more of this cobalt color. It's okay to leave some white of your paper in the sky too. And I do plan on doing a second layer in the sky, so you don't have to make it absolutely perfect right now. So I'm trying to make the top part of my sky the darkest and then have it become lighter. Okay, then I'm cleaning my brush, and then I'm going to grab some of this yellow here that we mixed. And I'm going to add some around the sun here, okay, like this, just a little bit. And then I'm cleaning my brush. I'm loading my brush with a little bit of clean water. And then now I'm going to kind of blend this yellow out. Being careful not to mix it too much into the blue because then it'll create green. I'm trying to leave my actual sun white, the white of my paper. And then I'm going to grab some of that peachy pink color that we mixed and add some of that at the horizon. And then kind of blend it into that yellow slightly. Then I'm going to take a clean and dry paper towel here, and I'm going to wipe away where my clouds are. It's okay if it's not perfect. You just want to kind of keep the areas where the clouds are a little lighter. And then now we'll wait for this to completely dry. Okay, so my sky is completely dry, and I did use my hair dryer to quickly dry my sky. So you can do that if you don't want to wait. And we're now going to paint the second layer on the sky and basically do the same thing that we did in the first layer. So again, I'm going to take my large flat brush here, 3/4 size from Zen Art, load it with clean water, and I'm going to wet my entire sky again. Making sure I'm going all the way to the edge. I'm adding water around my sun. And then again, I'm taking that turquoise color and I'm starting to add it at the very top of my sky and then kind of blending it down. And then like the first layer, I'm trying to make the top of the sky the darkest. Towards the middle and bottom, it becomes lighter. And then I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm going to grab some of that peachy color and add that at the horizon. Then kind of blend it up. And then I'm cleaning my brush and then taking some yellow and adding it around the sun. Again, I'm trying to keep my sun white. And then I am taking my clean and dry paper towel and wiping away the areas where I have clouds. And then we will let this completely dry. Okay, so my sky is completely dry, and now we're going to paint in the clouds. So for the clouds, we want kind of like a grayish purple for the shadows, which we kind of already mixed here, but now it's kind of dried up. So I'm going to reactivate it with my brush and some water. And I think I'm going to mix a little bit more. So again, I am using Moon Glow here, and I'm adding it to this area with water. And then, yeah, I think I'm going to add a little bit of the Sleeping Beauty turquoise to it as well. And then I'm cleaning my brush, and we want to mix more of that peachy color. So I'm going to mix some of the Shell Pink from Holbein on my palette with some water. And I'm going to grab some yellow too. Add a little bit of yellow to this. Okay, I kind of added too much. Now I'm going to add some more of this pink. I'm going to keep that paint in my brush. I'm going to take this other brush that I have and grab some turquoise, the cobalt turquoise from Schmincke, and add some more of this to my palette with some water, just to have some of this ready because I was running low on it. Okay, so now we're ready to paint in the clouds. I'm going to take my brush that has that pinkish peachy color, and I'm going to have this brush here that is clean and just has a little bit of water in it, and I'm going to use this clean brush to do a little bit of blending. So I'll be working with two brushes at once. One has my peachy color, the other one just has water. And I'm first going to add a cloud up here, kind of just wiggle my brush around like that. Take my water brush and kind of blend this way with some water. And I'm going to drop in a little bit more pink. I'm looking at the reference photo. I'm trying to render this cloud to make it look fluffy. Grab me some more pink. And I'm going to add like a little pink cloud here. Switch to my brush that just has water and blend this cloud a little bit. Grab me some more pink and adding a cloud here. The trick is to not make your clouds look so perfect, to make them look irregular, and just add a little bit of that pink and then blend. Drop in some more pink into the cloud. Add one up here. Switch to my brush that has some water in it. Blend the bottom part into the sky. I'm wiggling my brush around. Then I'm going to add some pink clouds over here. Switch to my brush that has water. Add some more at the horizon. So you can basically add clouds wherever you would like. You don't have to go off the reference photo. I'm kind of going off of it, but not entirely. The trick with clouds, from what I've learned, is to have one part of the cloud like this, where there's a clear distinction between the cloud and the sky, but then have another part of it kind of blend into the sky, like it fades. I feel like this makes them look more realistic. And then the lower the clouds are in the sky, meaning like the closer to the horizon they are, the smaller the cloud should be. And then I'm going to go back into this cloud up here simply because I don't really like it. So I'm just going to kind of fix this cloud a little bit. Okay, so then the next step for these clouds is to add a shadow to them. Because if you look at the reference photo, part of the clouds, there's like a grayish purple to them. So that is where this color comes in. So I'm going to take some of this color that I mixed with Moon Glow and Turquoise. And I'm just going to add a little tiny bit. I don't want to add too much, only a little bit, because I really like how this looks already. So as you can see, I kind of just dab my brush with it a little bit, and then I take this other brush that has water, and then I'm just kind of blending it out like so. And as we get closer to the sun, remember that it is very light, so we don't want to add too much of this by the sun. And as we get to the top part, or around the edge of the painting on the clouds, I'm adding a little bit more of this. Now it is time to paint the sand in the water. For the sea foam, which is like the white areas on the water, I will be using my white gouache here because I feel like this will be a lot easier. If you don't have white gouache, you can use a white gel pen, or you can use masking fluid to preserve some of the white of the sea foam. So if you're going to be using masking fluid, you'll want to go ahead and apply that to your paper where you want to preserve the white of the sea foam. You can also paint around the areas that you want to keep white, but then you won't be able to use the technique that we'll be using, which is the wet and wet method. You'll want to instead paint with the wet on dry method for this first layer. We are going to first mix the colors that we'll be using, get those ready, and then we will wet the entire bottom section of this painting. So let's go ahead and mix some colors. We want to mix a color for the sand. So the sand looks like it's kind of a peachy color, a lot like the colors that we used in the sky. So I'm going to take my size 8 round brush here, and I'm going to use this color from Schmincke called Naples Yellow Reddish. So I'm going to take some of this, but use whatever color you have that looks the closest to the sand, like the color in the sand. So I'm adding some of this to my palette with some water, and I'm going to try and mix a lot of it because a lot of this area that we'll be painting will be this color. And then I also want it to be light. So it's always best to start light, and then you can always make areas darker as you paint, but you can't always go the other way. And then I'm going to add some of the shell pink to this. Okay, so this is the color that I'm going for. So I'm just going to leave it in my brush for when we paint, and then I'm going to take this other brush that's clean, and I'm going to mix some turquoise colors. So here I have Sleeping Beauty turquoise, which is kind of a darker turquoise compared to this other one that I have, which is Cobalt turquoise from Schmincke. So I'm adding some of this darker turquoise to the top part of my palette with some water. And then I'm going to take some of this lighter, more vibrant turquoise and add that right over here. Okay, so we mixed some turquoises and the color for the sand, and then we also want to mix a yellow. So I'm going to take this other brush here that's clean, and I'm just going to reactivate this yellow here, add some water to it. So now we're ready to paint the water. Okay, so I'm taking my large flat brush here and I'm loading it with water, and then I'm going to wet this entire bottom part of the painting. And I'm making sure that I'm not wetting any of the clouds. Like, I'm really trying to be careful here, but I kind of already wet some of the clouds, but you know what? It's okay. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the turquoise, and I'm going to grab some of that darker turquoise that I have and add it over here to the very horizon. And then as I get closer to the sun, I'm going to try and have it be a little lighter. Actually, I'm going to drag some of this blue off that is right in front of the sun here. I'm going to kind of drag some of that off. And then I'm adding some water to my brush now. I'm not adding any more paint to my brush. And I'm kind of making a gradient. So as we get closer to the bottom of the painting, we want it to be very light. And I'm not yet painting all the way to the sea foam because a lot of that area is going to be that peachy color. And then again, I'm really trying to keep the white on my paper right in front of the sun here. I'm cleaning my brush that had the blue, and then I'm going to grab some of this yellow and kind of drop some of that in here. But we don't want to mix it too much into the blue because it'll create a green, so be careful. I might even kind of drag some of this off because I feel like it is creating a green. And then I'm going to take some of that peachy color and add that in down here, kind of where the sea foam starts. And again, I want this to be very light. I don't want it to be too dark here. And then now I'm going to add this, to all of my sand. I didn't dip it again in my paint because I'm really trying to make this very light here. Now I'm going to take more of that peachy color and add some more kind of at the corners of my painting to really help make my painting pop, give it some more depth. And now we'll let this completely dry. Now it's time to add some detail to our water. I am going to take the size 2 rigger brush from Zen Art here, take some of this Sleeping Beauty turquoise from Daniel Smith, basically right out of the pan. And then I'm going to go along the horizon here and add that in. And then as I get closer to the sun, again, I am trying to make it very light here. I'm not really adding much. And then I'm going to kind of blend some of this down, scrubbing my brush, creating some texture in the water. Then I'm going to take more of this turquoise again and add some over here. And again, I'm really trying to leave some of that lighter blue unpainted. And as we add this texture and shadow to the water, we need to keep in mind that it is horizontal, that we're not like doing this, like up and down. We need to keep our brush horizontal. Now I'm just going to take some here on my palette because now I kind of feel like this is easier for me anyways, instead of from the pan. And then I'm going to add some more. And then, yeah, now I'm using that brighter turquoise that is from Schmincke, not the Sleeping Beauty one that's darker. It's good to use more than one kind of blue for water because if you look at water, there's a lot of different kinds of blues. So yeah, I'm just constantly dipping my brush in my water jar to add some more water to my brush. And then as we get closer to the sand, we're going to start blending this turquoise into the sand a little bit. Here I'll move my water jar closer so that you can see when I dip my brush in it. Okay, then we'll let this completely dry. Now we're ready to add the sea foam. So this is where the white gouache comes in handy. Again, you can use a white gel pen if you don't have white gouache. You could also try white watercolor paint, and you can try white watercolor paint if you don't have any of those. So I'm taking my white gouache here with my rigger brush that I was just using, and I'm just kind of taking it out of the tube. And then I'm going to paint this along where the sea foam is, like on the outer part of the sea foam. I am dipping my brush that has the white gouache in my water jar here, and then I'm going to go along the edge and kind of refine some areas, kind of blend it into the water slightly. I'm also looking at the reference photo as I'm doing this. I'm going off of it, but I mean, it's not like perfect or anything. And you can also add this white gouache to your palette if you would like. I just like to use it out of the tube. And then you can start adding the white gouache in areas on the shore. I know it looks kind of messy right now, but I will make it look better here in a second. And then I'm dipping my gouache brush in my water, and now I'm going to kind of work this foam more, wiggling my brush around in it, making it look more like foam. I'm also looking at the reference photo frequently and trying to mimic the texture I see. Okay, I'm cleaning my brush now, and then if you would like, you can do this step. I'm going to add some highlights to my water with this white gouache. So I'll add some kind of where the sun is reflecting off the water. And then a little bit throughout the water to make it look like it's sparkling. And again, I know that it looks a little messy. I will go over some of this white gouache to make it look better. I'm just kind of first adding it to areas. Then I'm grabbing some water in my brush, going over those white areas a little bit. I'm now going to take some of Sleeping Beauty turquoise again and go back over the horizon. You don't have to do this, I just kind of wanted to make my horizon a little bit darker in areas. And you can even add some of the darker turquoise along the edges of your water here to add more depth. And throughout some of the waves that we see in the reference photo, I'm adding a little bit more shadow to the water. And then I do want to add a touch of pink to my water, so I'm taking the shell pink here from Holbein, placing it where I had that peachy color, and I'm going to add some in some areas here like that, and then take this brush that just has water and kind of blend it. So this will just give the illusion that the sky is reflecting off the water. You can even add this in areas in the water as well. Now I'm looking over my painting and I'm trying to see what else I would like to add. And I kind of feel like I want to add some more pink to my clouds. So I'm taking some of that shell pink from Holbein on my palette with some water. I'm just going to add some of this pink in areas and blend it with this brush that just has water. And that is it for this tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed it, and don't forget, if you post your seascape to Instagram, to tag me, Alice Online Art, and use the hashtag Alice Online Art Tutorial. I would love to see it. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next tutorial.